Welcome to Rucks, Moles and Overballs. That's right, it's the fans' favourite rugby podcast, brought to you by the fans' favourite rugby podcast host. That's right, it's me, Dave, joined as ever by Rory. Rory, say hello to the listener.
Hello listeners. Hello David, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for joining me with my prolonged vowels on that introduction. I thought I was trying something new. Got to try something new. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, Rory. Thank you for asking. Let me try and think. Is there anything of note for me to talk about before we get into the big news coming from the mighty Westcliff RFC? No, I haven't got anything. I don't think. Rory, tell the listener the good news.
The Lions are in the league final.
Whoa, they're going for silverware. They're going all the way. They're doing.
We've got two finals in 2 weeks, David. We've got a league final this weekend and the cup final the week after.
Now, you're not going to be like Arsenal and bottle it, are you?
No. My boys have got balls like walls. They'll never flake at the big occasion.
Well, tell me about the semi-final. Was it a match for the ages?
It was a tough fought game. I think probably not a feast for thine eyes, I would guess. A tense affair against Wanstead Twos. Very physical. A lot of hard graft in the tight spaces, but it did end 39-31. So there were plenty of tries in the end.
Very good. Any for yours truly?
None for yours truly. Yours truly did a lot of scrummaging though.
I think I saw you were lining up at the old tight head prop this week. So
I was. Yeah.
I imagine the back is feeling it today.
The back, the neck, the shoulders, the arms, the legs, they're all feeling it. Not helped by a real lack of rainfall in southeast England. Another car park to play on.
Fantastic. Love them.
Yeah. A lot of impact on the old body, but no, the boys came through. We had a back line that had an average age of about 19, so that was a challenge in and of itself. A lot of very talented, promising youngsters coming through.
The sort that like to run in lots of different directions away from where the forwards generally are. That sounds like
yeah. The youthful exuberance and how I resent it.
Yeah.
No, it was. It was a really good game to play in, really tough. You need these kind of tests for the young lads to come through so that they're battle hardened for bigger games to come. But yeah, it was a fairly brutal one on the old bod.
Okay, and do you know who your opponents are in the final?
We're playing Chelmsford again.
Oh, you beat them recently, didn't you? Or did they beat you?
We beat them last week. At their gaff. Now we're going for finals day at Barking RFC. The threes are in their league final, the twos are in our league final, so we're all going up on the coach.
Lovely.
Play one game after the other, and then we'll have a big bus session on the way home. So if you happen to be on the 127 Saturday evening, expect to see some. Well, let's be honest, there'll be some bums in the window.
And there we have people. This week's podcast episode title, Bums in the Window. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I look forward to finding out how the Lions go, hopefully with some silverware to show off, kind of put the icing on the cake on what has been a fantastic season under your captaincy, Rory. I'm sure the whole team, the whole club at Westcliff would agree that this is just a testament to your leadership and aura.
Yeah, I think aura is the word. Yeah.
Yeah. There might be some other words that are banded around the word aura, but we'll see.
Lack thereof. Deeply unpleasant.
Yeah, those sorts of words. But again, let's not dwell. Let's not put any curses. Let's not think too much about the final, Rory. We've got some other rugby to talk about. We do. Prem Rugby round 13. We've got some rugby news stuff going on. So we'll start off with some news. We'll then run through Prem round 13. We'll have another round of What a Ranker because it's taking the internet by storm. And we'll have a little touch on the Women's Six Nations. And we'll round off for this week's pod, Rory. Hopefully, to you and the listener, that's something worth listening to.
Feels good to me.
I'd hope so. I really would hope so. We'll start off news-wise, Rory, and this is something that you you've brought to my attention, and it may not be something that's quite yet in the deep, dark areas of the internet. It's certainly not being spoken about on such websites as ruck.co.uk, which has got such on-the-ball journalism. We're talking about the We're talking about the RFU holding a special general meeting.
Yeah, so I believe it's an SGM on Friday this week, where they will be voting. The members will be voting on the plans that have been signed off by the council to modernise governance at the RFU. So from memory, the gist of this is that the RFU council is removed as a decision-making / a decision-approving body.
Right.
So the professional game board will run the professional game independently, and there will be a separate board managing the community game.
Okay.
But effectively, Dave Best from Best's Secondhand Cars, with his gravy-stained tie that little Pidlington third gave him for his stint as captain in 1987.
And again, once again, big apology to little Pidlington for being targeted here. I know this isn't the first time they've been brought up here.
Yeah, well, he can no longer have a say in how professional rugby is run in England. So far, the council turkeys have voted for Christmas.
Okay,
but we are now at the where the rubber really meets the road, where the members have a vote.
Right.
And unfortunately, the word is that this is going to struggle to get through the vote.
Interesting. Is there any murmurs as to why that would be? Is it just members having a few mates on the council not wanting to?
Well, it's ostensibly an aversion to the centralisation of power to the RFU. Imagine that, having a governing body that had power to govern as a body.
Yeah, I know. Mad.
The proposal, it's not like the proposals remove community game power. They just separate the community game from being able to manage the professional game, which is
logical.
What you need to do.
Yeah.
You would think so. But supposedly the members are less enthused by the idea. So hopefully a bit of last minute lobbying will get the proposals through. But unfortunately at the moment, prospects are a little grim. And, this proposal's taken over 2 years. The review took 2 years to put together. If they don't vote this through, there won't be another one for
2 years.
Well, probably longer, probably 5-10 years, which means England rugby will keep bumbling along as it is,
be hamstrung,
and will not modernise. They have to modernise. So we can remain in hope that sense will prevail, but this is English rugby, so I'm not holding my breath.
No, sense and prevail don't often go hand in hand with English rugby. So is this the same sort of thing that it was spoken about along with the franchising and removal of promotion and relegation chatter? Is it similar in the sense of like it's tied in with that decision making, or is it a separate sort of?
I believe the franchising decision is still set in stone. I don't think that can change now. I believe that decision's been made.
I'd hope so, because they've announced it quite officially now.
Yeah, unless they were really trying to just force the issue through. But I believe this won't affect that decision. What it will affect is whether each decision still require council approval, which, I'm not saying, I should caveat that I don't have absolute knowledge that every member of the council has no idea what they're doing, is just a rank amateur. But I don't think rugby should have a say on what's going to affect the England national team. And I'm sorry, I just believe that.
Well, I think in the way the modern game's set up, I think it's a fairly strong argument for it, because why should the elite professional aspect of the sport be held to account by, as you say, a very local level, very minor local team where the issues and what's important to them are so far from what is important to the elite game? Just separating it and having the oversight in two different ways just makes perfect sense. But hey, like we said, English rugby stuck in the ways, and will continue to be our own worst enemy, I'm sure. But hey, we'll see. We'll see if anything comes out this Friday, if there is any announcement or any sort of press release, and if any falling out from that. But we'll keep everyone up to speed. Second bit of, well, not news, but it's mainly firming up of rumour mill. We've touched it already last week, but there's now a name linked to the takeover of Exeter Chiefs that we alluded to last week, where there's the special, there's the EGM, the Emergency General Meeting, taking place in May, where their 700 members will vote as to whether they will be taken over by American financier billionaire Jim Foley, I think his name is, or Bill Foley, who is current owner of Bournemouth Football Club, owns a basketball team, I believe, owns a number of other football clubs in Europe. So a serial sports investor.
Yeah.
Not one of the worst American investors.
It's another American investor. It's a consortium. It's Black Knight Football Club, I think is their full name. They are an original club, I believe, was the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL.
Yes, that's the one.
Who they taken to the Stanley Cup. So, I mean, I'm not an expert on NHL by any stretch, but that sounds good.
Yeah.
Bournemouth Football Club, who are very much a success story for lower league football teams to establish themselves in the top division. Yeah. They are invested in several other clubs around Europe.
I wonder if there's something in the proximity, because obviously Bournemouth isn't a bajillion miles away from Exeter. I think if you're going to get as close to Exeter as you can with a Premier League football club, that they are reasonably proximate to each other. So I wonder if there was something in that connection.
Quite possible. I think the Exeter business is fairly attractive. The overall business includes, I think, the hotel and the conference centre, which in that part of the southwest is more or less got a corner of the market.
Well, quite geographically, like any movers or shakers in the Devon or Cornwall area, you're meeting up at the Exeter Conference Centre, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the overall business has its attractions. This is their first foray into rugby, unsurprisingly. Yeah. But they come hot on the heels of, obviously, Red Bull, Newcastle, Dyson at Bath, at Saints Zander, is it?
Yeah, I keep forgetting his first name. I've been doing a Rory and can't remember his first name. But it's not quite the same. I think that's... So what he's done...
That's still a couple of £1 million of investment in shares. You know, it's still... It's investment. Obviously, you've got the Oranges at sale. And I believe there are rumours that another team has had interest expressed.
And I'm guessing you've got every orifice crossed that's Gloucester. Because I know they've been searching for investment.
Well, that would be nice, but I don't hold out hope that Gloucester will be the next one to be invested in. But you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Tony Rowe's been very vocal the last few weeks. I think probably expressing his own confidence. He's been touting things like inviting 2 Welsh clubs into the Prem, expanding the Prem to at least 12 teams, probably 14. Yep. I believe the overall plan is to get to 20 teams in the franchise, whether that's 2 franchises in the same way that NFL work is in 2 conferences, or whether that be a 2-tier league system. The latter, I think, is what I would probably prefer. But there's a lot of water to pass on the bridge before we get to that point. He's, I believe, still planning to stay on at Exeter from a management capacity, either as chair or on the board. But Exeter will have new owners, which is it's an interesting decision. I think the business is sound in Exeter, but Exeter's not the biggest city. It's not even the biggest city of the teams left have attracted investment. It might just be down to a bit of proactivity on Tony Rowe's part to find investors, but it is a sign that people are looking at the Prem and they are looking at the potential there. So it's all in all, I think overall it speaks to a really good sign for the direction the Prem's taking at a macro level. There's always going to be a bit of reticence for me for big American investors coming into a sport they don't know whether they understand the game, whether they have a sustainable plan for Exeter, or whether they're just going to CVC it and just put the investment in and sit around and watch. Yeah. But I think overall it's probably in the pot of good news for Prem this year.
Yeah, I think that now brings Prem clubs. I think 4 or 5 of them now all have billionaire owners, which is a bit of a different story to say 4 or 5 years ago. I suppose the thing for me is I think this makes the whole argument around the need for a salary cap and like really flipping on its head the narrative around Prem Rugby in recent years about how important it is we have that. Because we're looking at down the barrel at a league in the very near future where there's going to be a number of clubs that can genuinely very easily afford to spend up to the cap, and if they wanted to, can spend a lot more.
Yeah.
And we may touch on similar themes in the games coming up, but one of the reasons the Prem should continue to be an exciting competition, an exciting investment, is how competitive it could be and should be.
Often is.
Notwithstanding this week.
Yeah.
So, like, there's legitimate worries out there of some people about how these investors are all well and good, but are we going to start to see a real separation between those with billionaires and those without? And what that does mean for those without. And yeah, obviously that's all hypothetical at the moment.
There's always going to be a concern about the haves and have-nots in any sport, and you can see the effect that's had in football. What I would say is if you actually transpose it to something like NFL, where there is more collective bargaining, there are salary caps, there are structures in place like the draft system to ensure competitiveness. There are ways to do this that prevent the leagues splitting between those that are competitive and those that aren't too drastically. My gut feel is that Prem Rugby will take more and more inspiration from the NFL to ensure that there have been talks of things like a league commissioner.
I do still dream of a day where there's a draft, Rory. I do still dream of that day.
Well,
you can see it moving in that direction with how they're setting up the academies.
You can see it moving in that direction. What I would say is, if you move to a draft system, does that incentivize or disincentivize teams to invest in their academy more or less? Or do they go, well, why would we invest in an academy? We can just draft players in. Or do you need to make all the academies independent bodies? Do you need to just tie them into universities? It's difficult because obviously the US has the advantage of the really strong, thriving college system that takes care of player development. And to another extent, the high school system. So player development isn't on the professional game to manage. At the moment, youth player development is almost entirely down to professional teams to invest in and manage, and to build those kind of homegrown talents, which is something we love about the academy system, and it's a particular passion of yours, David.
I don't want to get rid of it, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, what would a draft mean for that?
True. Yeah, it's a fair argument. I suppose the counter maybe that it could all just be done through credits, so that if you produce the ones that are performing best and go through to get international honours and stuff, you get increased credits to your salary cap, and you get reductions, so then you can afford more in your squad. I don't know, something along those lines, or whether you get first refusal, or there's protected picks and things like that you can get.
There's maybe a way to do it. I mean, maybe one day in the future, academies will all be centrally governed, and they won't be governed by individual pro teams at all. Who knows?
It is all hypothetical, but we do like to talk about these sorts of things every now and then, don't we, Rory? We certainly do. We do like to just dream of another way of things. And as mentioned on numerous of these episodes of podcasts, we are still available for any consulting to the RFU or any organisation wishing to instrument.
We could be joint commissioners.
More than happy to share the commissioner role, Rory. So we'll await the phone call on that one, along with all the other phone calls we're still waiting for. I have a feeling I haven't paid the phone bill, because that's the only explanation.
Must be that.
Nor do we have a phone line. One for me to ponder on. But I think news-wise, I think that's it, Rory, for this week that I could think of off the top of my head. Although we could talk a smidge about maybe Finn Russell going to Eddie Hearn, but I wanted to touch on it a little bit in the Bath section. So I'll keep my powder dry for now, because I know Bath fans love listening to me talk about Bath rugby. Before we dig into the games, Rory, I think there's a general cautionary tale that we need to take from this week, touching on what we spoke about before. Spoiler alert, listeners, the results this week, not great from a competition point of view, because if you were to remove just one of the games from this week, the winning margin across the four other games counts as all 4 being really shellackings, and it's really not in keeping with this narrative that we keep trying to be really optimistic about the really competitive Gallagher Prem competition, when we have a week of games this week where we have some teams getting put away for 80 points, and it's not ideal. So
it's not been a good week for the competitiveness of the league. I think it boils down to, I mean, ultimately, let's be frank about it, it's the bottom 4 teams not turning up this week. With the slight caveat, actually, that I will caveat that with Harlequins. We'll go into a bit more detail later on. I think there's more nuance to that result. Certainly, Sale, Gloucester, and Newcastle can have no real complaints about the results in their games.
No,
and to be honest, they were genuinely poor performances. It's not like there's nothing to play for at the bottom. There's obviously the chance against Champions Cup rugby. Is that providing the incentive that it used to? Maybe not. Because it doesn't feel like anyone down there is willing to grasp the nettle and go for it. To be honest, I mean, particularly in the case of Sale and Newcastle in particular this weekend, it didn't feel like they wanted to be there at all. Gloucester to an extent as well.
No, so
I think this was a poor weekend for the league, really, from that sense.
Yeah, the murmurings I've been hearing around Sale and Newcastle is that this has been the week where players without contract extensions have been given the heads up whether they are likely to get a contract or not.
Right.
And perhaps we've seen a little bit of reaction from squads to that sort of news. I think with Newcastle in specificity, I imagine the number's quite high of kind of player turnover. And maybe that's why we're seeing reaction. And that may also be the reason why we're certainly in sales perspective, they did a very interesting squad selection where it was very focused on kind of players of tomorrow rather than the squad players. So that might have something to do with it. And it's because perhaps these are 2 sides that have nothing to play for, so they're just getting their ducks in order early so they can go on holiday a bit earlier. I don't know.
It certainly looked like a few were thinking of the beach.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're going to start going into the games, Rory, and I know we've preambled this, and I'm very aware what the first fixture is, and it's really unfortunate because it seems Gloucester quite often get to be the first fixture we talk about. So you're quite often first up in the running order, and it's not been a great season for Gloucester.
No.
Are we preparing ourselves for another Rory rant, or is there anything close to positivity? That you can draw out of this game, which, as already mentioned, was a little bit of a shellacking by their close rivals, Bristol.
Well, honestly, David, I don't have the energy to rant about them after this one. It was just so utterly disappointing to watch. To the point where you probably almost for the first time this season, I would say I've probably given the club more grace than most in the Gloucester faithful, most probably would as a Gloucester fan. This was one where I watched it and I went, something's just not working here, lads. So I'll start off. Bristol were phenomenal. By the way, they were just great, and it wasn't like they were in second gear. They were just operating at a different level the whole game. I was thinking about it, and I think Bristol, to me, of all the teams in the Prem, I think play the most French style of rugby. Their ability to mix it in the tight and then play just some phenomenal phases is, I think the most similar to a top 14 side out of any of the Prem sides. The other Prem sides,
the variety they do within each phase is quite impressive.
Yeah, they have the ability to generate quick ball from a standing start. You know, the likes of Fitz Harding. You know, just his ability his work rate obviously is phenomenal, and and it's well storied and it's well deserved to be praised. I think his ability to recognise when the time is to pick and go and generate a quick stop, even if you don't get loads of meters beyond the contact, he just generates quick ball. James, I think, is it James Dunn and Joe Batley, the second rows?
Well done, Rory. 2 points.
Well done, mate. In the engine room, I thought they were excellent. Owen at 6, I thought was excellent as well. Grondona was just nuggety and annoying and constantly good throughout the whole game. George Kloska had one of his best games that I've seen him play. I think he's really
good.
coming on.
So good. And
Yeah.
I think the way he seems to really work symbiotically with Ellis Genge really well. They seem to complement each other, and they seem to work well.
His turnover on their own try line when we were actually playing some good phases was superb, and his scrummaging's really strong now. It's not out of the realms of possibility that he's going to get the call up to the England squad, because he's right up there in the tight head stakes at the moment.
I think he needs to be looked at, because when I was looking at the stats just for the season, so I make my own stat around kind of regularity of tackle. So basically, it's like how many minutes is there between each tackle you make on average, just to give an impression of your defensive work rate. He's up there in the top 10 with the best. Like, he's up there with Will Evans and Jack Kenningham. Like, his work rate in defence is remarkable for a tight head prop.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see the comparison with Afo for Gloucester, because as talented a player as he is, and as much potential as he's got, I just don't think he's working hard enough at the moment. And you could say that, to be honest, in this game, you could say that about a few Gloucester players. I don't think he gets his hands on the ball enough. I don't think he puts enough hits in defence. It just feels like the game passes him by a lot of the time. It's a shame, because he's got all the talent in the world. I just want to see him involved as much as possible, because when he is, he's brilliant. But in this game, he just wasn't. Well, if wasn't involved. It obviously scrummaged well, but
yeah,
and that's great. Don't get me wrong. Scrummaging well against Ellis Genge is to be commended, and he did scrummage well against Ellis Genge. I think they were evens on penalties.
Is he becoming a bit of a scrum merchant, though? It's like, is he focusing too much on that part of his game? Because let's give you reference to the stat. Kloska's he does tackle every 4 minutes and 3/4 of a minute, so whatever that is. Afo is every 6.5 minutes, so nearly 50% less effective.
And it's not like Gloucester have loads of possessions. We doesn't have to make tackles. We had about 29% possession in this game.
Yeah.
But Kloska was excellent. I thought Ellis Genge was really, really busy with the ball in hand. Ogre's been good all season. He was good again. His darts, his set piece work is, for not the biggest hooker in the world, is excellent. He's another one who I think does, with the hooker berth really up for grabs at the moment. I do think Ogre deserves a shot.
I think under a different coach, we would have seen more of him in an England shirt.
Yeah.
I think.
Tom Jordan, the George Barton charge down aside. Tom Jordan was excellent in this game. Just managed the game really well. He's really physical as well. He's a really physical defender. He's a big lad, and he really makes use of it. JVR, Bernard Janssen van Rensburg, just nails again. Both sides of the ball, excellent. Cuts really good lines. Yeah. Makes tackles at times that are really frustrating when it's your team in attack. He just cuts down. He stops attacks so well. And then you've got Ibitoy and Ravuvu outside them, who are just stardust. Ibitoy's they're both just busy. They're all over the pitch.
Yeah.
You just don't know where they're going to pop up.
Yeah, I think if you just watch their work rate, the effort they put in to make themselves available on either wing, regardless of which direction of play the phases are going, like that's what I imagine. It's one of the reasons why Bristol are so hard to stop when they're in full flow, because sometimes it looks like they have more players on the pitch than you. It's because of the work rate those wingers are putting in.
They pop up everywhere. I mean, Ibitoy, the amount of times he either steps in at 9 or he steps in as first receiver. I think his work on the high ball's really good. Bristol have identified this plan of combating the high ball by having the retreating winger collecting it. So your man in the backfield's there to pick up the scraps. That seems to be working really, really well for them. I expect more teams to adapt that.
Yeah.
But look, Bristol were excellent. I cannot fault their performance in the slightest. Gloucester's I can fault pretty heavily. I mean, it started bad. Bristol start off, they go 25 phases off the first line out, and Marmion scores, and Gloucester, they can't slow the ball down. And it's hard, right? I'd say Bristol are really good. It'd be hard for anyone to slow that ball down, but they weren't doing anything to slow the ball down. There wasn't any dominant hits. There was no Jacqueline. it just felt like they were passive in defence. That every collision was really passive. Bristol were just seemed to be getting ground constantly, and in the end, the dam was just always going to break. Seb Blake's then binned after 4 minutes as well for a high shot. It's I think slightly harsh, but ultimately probably the right call. And it set the tone for Gloucester's discipline throughout the whole game. Discipline was abysmal.
Wasn't good.
3 yellow cards. That would have been. I mean, I will go into bat for Josiah Roberts-Giroux. His yellow card was so harsh. It's not a slap down if someone throws the ball into you. He hadn't moved his arm to slap it. It's just it gets thrown into him and it happens to hit his arm as he's gone to do a cover tackle. It's just not everything needs to be a yellow card. It's not necessarily a penalty if someone just throws a ball at you. That one was harsh. No complaints about Charlie Atkinson's one. That was absolutely yellow card, just killing the ball under severe pressure. Fitzhardin's try just comes from pen after pen after pen. Vuvu's try, Ibitoy makes a break off. BJVR makes the break and feeds it to Ibitoy straight off a kickoff. After Ravuva's try beforehand, where there's sort of a half charge down on Keelan and Keelan Englefield, and they find the space. They go one way, they go the other, find the space on the left, and Ravuvu just canters in really fairly unopposed. We're the worst starters in the league in the first quarter.
Yeah, it's a theme that's kind of been there throughout the season, really, isn't it? And
it really emerged in the last couple of games as well. I would think we were probably up there towards the top of the worst performers in the first quarter. In the last 2 games, I think we've conceded 7 tries across 2 quarters. It's just small.
You're not going to win anything going that far behind.
No, absolutely. Sorry, I should say the Fitzhardin try was chalked off for the knock on at the Mole. He did score later off the tap penalty very easily. To be honest, it's just the space was created so easily. Tom Jordan scores off an intercept off a really poor pass from Charlie Atkinson. The accuracy with the ball in hand, it's very difficult to win a game of rugby with really low possession. I think, first half in particular, I think we had 29% possession. It wouldn't have been much higher across the whole game.
Yeah.
When we had the ball, there were moments when you could sort of see where the attack was going. We had some good attacks, particularly in the first half. But the actual skills accuracy was poor. And players that are better than that, the likes of Charlie Atkinson, the likes of Seb Atkinson, throwing balls that went to feet, throwing balls that went behind people, just poor skills. Yeah. That some of it's massively improved. Our line out looks 1,000 times better than it did at the start of the season.
Yeah, from where it started. Yeah,
from where it started.
It was awful at the start of the year.
Awful at the start of the season, and it's now genuinely pretty reliable.
Yeah,
our maul looks better. Our maul defence looks better. I know Bristol's Ogre scored off the back of a maul try, but that's actually just it's a really good take by Fitzhardin right at the back, right at the absolute edges, and Gloucester have competed.
Yeah.
And we're right to. It's just a fantastic take, and actually, it's so far back. If he collects it and they hit the maul, it's virtually impossible to stop that.
Yeah.
So I don't blame the maul defence for that. You can blame everything that leads up to it in terms of giving field position.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The actual maul defence for that one is just really, really well executed by Bristol.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to tip your hat to well executed rugby.
Yeah, you do. And ultimately by that point, it was broadly irrelevant. But you could say Bristol, I think, still have the most effective line-out maul in the league, and Gloucester defended theirs really effectively for most of the game. That instance aside, a scrum's still pretty reliable, but they look like they haven't trained with the ball in hand, which they've had so much time. We went out of the Champions Cup at the first opportunity. We went out of the Prem Cup pretty early.
Yeah, what have you been doing?
Yeah, there's been lots of time to have the boys on the paddock, sharpening the skills and getting more fluid in attack. And, I know there's been a lot of injuries throughout the year. We've not been able to have a stable backline at all, but I've got limited sympathy with that because really no one has. Bristol have dealt with serious injuries.
Yeah.
And, they're still able to maintain really good cohesion. So I don't have any sympathy for it.
No.
there's been some. Trevor Woodman's been announced that he's moving on, so he's going to go to Connaught and join Stuart Lancaster's team. It looks like Brett Deacon's coming in to join the coaching team from Leicester. That's the rumour. It's been announced he's leaving Leicester, so the heavy rumour is coming to Gloucester, which is potentially a very good appointment. I think he'll be a forwards coach though. But I know that the coaching team is all under real review, and to be honest, they should be. And I don't like to say it because I really like Skibbs. I like James Lightfoot-Brown. I think I like Don Waldock. I think they're all young coaches with real potential to make an impact in the game. But at the moment, Gloucester look poorly coached, and if you look poorly coached, there's really only one place you can look to find the problems. I think there's been lots of bad planning and bad execution with Gloucester in terms of how many players came in and out last summer. There's a question mark about quality, the quality levels in some areas. There's a lot of young players in some areas, but by and large, it just boils down to Gloucester look really, really poor and poorly coached at the moment, and I can't say fairer than that at the moment.
Yeah, I'd be really intrigued to knowing what's written in Chris Boyd's little notebook and kind of what's on the top of his to-do list. I think if I was to try and cheer you up, Rory, I was having a look at kind of the makeup of squads for next season. There's a lot better balance to Gloucester's squad next season when you look at it in the grand scheme of things.
Well, as you know, David, next year's always Gloucester's year.
Yeah. So, but injuries permitting, and hopefully that feel you got at the moment this season, hopefully might have been addressed with. Look,
run down some of the things I've mentioned there. Being passive in the collision. Well, you bring Dewi Lake, Jack Morgan, John Klein, Joe Joyce into that pack. Your collisions suddenly start to look a bit more meaty.
Yeah.
Inability to slow the ball down because you're not Jacqueline. Well, Jack Morgan's the best in the British Isles.
Yeah.
But
you said young players in the back, like you bring in Dan Robson, who's got kind of two decades of experience.
Yeah. So there is potentially a chink of light at the end of the tunnel, but it looks real far away at the moment. And the rest of the season, it's a bit of a best of the rest question between those bottom four sides. Our advantage is probably that we've got Sale and Newcastle at home. We've already done a double over Quins. So, there's a reasonable opportunity for us to come seventh. It will be, I would say it's undeserved, but it's undeserved by all four teams, and someone's got to come seventh.
So it's a real race. It's a race to be best of the rest, and maybe Gloucester are best placed for that.
But best of the rest looks very distant to the rest.
Yeah, I think that is incredibly fair to say. Yeah, there's not much more to say about that. I thought summed up all the points really. Bristol were fantastic, and Gloucester less so. Moving on to the next game, Rory. I'll slightly go out of sync with the synchronicity, just because I'd rather talk about the 3:05 kickoff than the 3 p.m. kickoff, if you'd allow me.
Yeah, let's, because I really, really enjoyed watching this game.
Yes.
I'm sure you did as well for other reasons, but
Exeter Chiefs versus Northampton, the one really good close game of the weekend,
and it was a hell of a ding dong.
Yeah,
hell of a ding dong.
Always is between Saints and Exeter. And as I said in my predictions going in, this was a very much head versus heart around kind of where I saw this one going, because Saints do not have a good track record at Sandy Park. They also do have a lot of difficulty playing Exeter at times. And thankfully, this week, it went with my heart. It went with the Saints. The Saints came out on top. Yeah, everyone was writing this off, so it made it even sweeter.
Well, look, I thought Chiefs would probably win this one. Just they're obviously in really good form. They've got a very good track record at home. I based it on that. It was no real slight against Saints. I just thought, I think Chiefs will win this one at home. But to win it in the 80th minute with that Finn Smith try, also the fact that he steps and gasses Manny Feo-Abosa, it's a really good finish.
Yeah.
It was excellent. I mean, to take the game as a whole, so the Chiefs came absolutely storming out the gates. I mean, maybe Saints were slightly slow starters, but the Chiefs absolutely stormed out the gates. So Feo-Abosa scores after 2 minutes, and Will Rigg scores after 7. There were lots of really good ball movement at the line from Chiefs. Particular standout in the first half in particular, but really throughout the whole game. Greg Fizzolau was superb. When Saints are in attack, he gets a really good intercept, really well-read intercept, and and not an easy place for a forward to attempt an intercept. He gets the assist for Will Riggs' try. He made some really massive tackles. I think it's one on, I'm not sure if it was slight home. It was one of the Saints posts. He absolutely levered someone really early on. Loads of carrying the ball, and he just makes ground constantly. And then on top of everything, he got won a jackal penalty on his try line as well to stop what looked like a pretty certain Saints score. He was, I would say, in that first half in particular, head and shoulders the best player on the pitch. He was absolutely excellent.
We've been waxing lyrical about Fizzolau all season, and
he
keeps delivering.
Yeah, I think he's got to get a shot internationally at some point because he's just that good. Saints punch back really, really well. It's the Mitchell try after 14. So it starts with indeed some lovely elusive. The Ginger Flash.
He's back.
Some lovely elusive running. Yeah, absolutely back with a bang. Steps away from 2 tacklers. Then Litchfield obviously gets player of the match in this game. Again, phenomenal. Probably deserved as being on the winning team. It would have been between him and Fizzolau probably for me. Cuts a really good unders line for the offload and then feeds in Mitchell to finish it off. Really good start to get in that first sort of 15 minutes or so. And then it's, for the rest of the half, I would say by and large, it's probably Chiefs quite backs against the wall defence, but really, really good defence, very physical. Saints probably victims of a bit of profligacy / victims of really good Chiefs defence. But there's nice moments in there, Callum Chick's 50-22, really lovely moment.
Lovely moment.
Love that. I thought it's almost tried to say at this point because we said it a lot this season, but you really miss Curtis Langdon. Your line-out really, really struggled. Without Langdon and Coles, the line-out starts to really struggle for Saints. Particularly, when you're up against someone as good as Zamboni, you're going to...
Yeah, you do look at that Saints lineup, and when it's Ed Prowse and Tom Lockett, who I would say both had really, really good games on the day.
They were good, but they're not
athletic locks, are they? So they're not quick to get up in the air.
They're tight-head locks. Both of them are tight-head locks, and then you've got Van der Mesht on the bench, who's the tightest of tight-head locks.
I don't think we've ever or will ever lift Van der Mesht to the line out.
No, and I wouldn't try. I think you'd hurt yourself. It's so unusually for Saints, probably lacking a bit of athleticism up front at the moment, which is an unusual situation for Saints to be in. I will say Craig Wright looks really good in the loose, and I think Manny Iogun, when he gets his hands on the ball, was really destructive as well.
I think he went well at the scrum as well. I thought Iogun. I think he's come on. I think he's quietly come on leaps and bounds this season.
He looks really, really handy there. But the line out, it's a slightly different story for Saints, who are usually a pretty good set piece team. But they just about managed to claw it back to 14-all, 2 minutes into overtime at the end of the first half. Just finally find the space in the red zone, which it's really unusual for Saints to struggle to find space. You normally identify it so well. I think it's just, testament to how well...
I think it was Exeter absolutely suffocated. Just suffocated.
Yeah, and they put you under... Their speed off the line in defence.
That was it.
Put you under a lot of pressure. It was really, really impressive. And, I would say for 20 minutes of that first half, Saints were well on top in terms of possession and territory, but Chiefs just would not let you in. It was a really, really impressive bit of defending. And then, for the first sort of 15, 20 minutes of the second half, it's pretty much a stalemate.
Yeah.
I'd say probably Saints marginally still on top, but not really... I wouldn't say loads of clear-cut opportunities, just lots of pressure.
Yeah.
But Chiefs, it's really good. It's really good phases from Chiefs, but actually, again, very good defence from Saints on this occasion, right up to the point where Hayden Wood cuts a lovely line.
Just came out
absolutely
of nowhere.
Carves through and puts Campbell Riddle through. Campbell Riddle, by the way, I'm becoming a rapid fan of his. Good with the ball in hand. There was one tackle he made in the corner, I think on Slightholme, where he bounced him off the pitch, which was really, really. He doesn't look the most physical player, particularly when you compare him to Paul Brown Bampo, Manny Boso. But he's quietly.
He threw himself about. He threw himself about, didn't he? He's
also
a lot quicker than I thought as well.
Yeah, he is quick. Really, really quick. It's a similar dap to Ollie Hassel-Collins, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really? So that kind of shape and style of player, but deceptively powerful. Then Furbank scores. It's a really good bit of identification from Saints on this one. So Manifo Boso gets binned for a slap down. Try aside, I thought he had a poor game, Boso.
Yeah, he was, other than the try, pretty anonymous.
Knocked it on a couple of times, didn't really make an impact with ball in hand. Unusually poor game by his standards.
Yeah, we haven't seen the magic from him for a little while yet. I'd argue. I know he's had a lot of injury problems, so it's kind of to be accepted.
Feels like he's yet to warm back up, but he's
probably in a
similar
position that Slightholme's in. I'd argue. It's just not quite hitting the levels that we got used to so comfortably. What do you make of the people that argue that it wasn't a slap down by Feo Boso and it wasn't a knock on?
Well, he goes with one hand, and it looks like it goes forward. So I don't really know what.
I find it an interesting argument that people have tried to make as well. But I try to get your view, Rory, because as a Saints fan, I often see things in certain ways. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't just being a one-eyed Saints fan.
I think it was 100%. It was a yellow card, and it was poor from him. It was a big mistake.
Yeah.
Because straight after, so you kick to the line out, and then I think it's Finn Smith, wasn't it? Puts the chip in behind because he realises
there was no sweeper.
No sweeper because they've got Varney up in the defensive line, I think, and. It wasn't Paul Brown, Ollie Woodburn gets his positioning wrong and just leaves a gap for Furbank to collect it. It's a really good, it's poor offensive setup. It's really good identification from Saints.
On Woodburn quickly as well, like gutted to see him get an injury.
He's been really excellent. It's a shame that he came off an injury because he's been quietly brilliant for Chiefs all season.
And I think Chiefs might rue letting Josh Hodge go early to Newcastle Red Bulls. So I don't think they've got a fullback on their books.
Not really. I think Riddle's probably the one going to cover that, or possibly Hayden Wood. But especially if you put Henry Slade there at a pinch bit, you'd miss having him at the line. Possibly a bit of a miscalculation from Chiefs there, but. Maybe the feeling between the two wasn't right, and they thought better just to let him go.
When that happens, there's usually good reason for it.
yes. Yeah. Enough said, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from there, I would say Saints get back on top again. Really. Pollock scores. Kemeny has a try ruled out for a knock on. Fraser Dingwall did his best to butcher it already, so it's probably fair enough. But it's probably I think it was the first time that Chiefs' defence looked a bit fallible when they were down to 14. They got a bit narrow.
Yeah.
And left Tommy Freeman with a lot of space down the right. Dingwall nearly makes a hash of it when he's got a clear run in. Kemeny finishes it, but gets chalked for an earlier knock on at the
kick.
At the box kick.
Yeah.
But then Saints get back down into the red zone. Campbell Riddle's binned for killing the ball on the try line. Probably the correct decision. It was a bit cynical. Tap and go. And Henry Pollock doing Henry Pollock things, absolutely bounces Harvey Skinner, who's a good defender. He's a big lad. Bounces him, finishes it off. Nice little celebration, giving it the old clay pigeons.
Clay pigeon shoot, yeah, lovely stuff.
Sort of thing I imagine he did growing up at Stowe School.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, Saints sort of their own worst enemy, really. Slade misses a kick to corner for a penalty. Furbank fields it and then gets Paul Brown Bampo, really good work rate following up the kick. As Furbank, after he's fielded the penalty, goes to clear it, gets charged down and PBB.
Slightholme's kick.
Was it Slightholme? Oh, sorry, I thought it was Furbank.
No, Furbank was the one that was running back to try and stop.
That's right. Yes, sorry. Slightholme maybe not known for his
It wasn't a good
kicking
kick.
skills.
It wasn't a good kick.
Generally, it was a poor one to get charged down from that distance. But yeah, PBB finishing it off. But credit to Saints, took the opportunity, went lots of phases, lots of very good defence from Chiefs, but slight sweeping move. Fraserden will get kind of the half break, offloads to Finn Smith, who steps and gasses Fairwood Boso, who probably should have done better.
Yeah.
And finishes it off. And all in all, if you didn't get this, if you didn't watch it, listeners, I hope that kind of recap gives you a sense of what kind of back and forth.
It was humdinger.
Absorbing game it was.
Really good.
Yeah, it was
really
an absolute humdinger. This one was a real pleasure to watch, actually.
Yeah. The weekend
I wouldn't
needed
normally
it.
say about Chiefs or Saints, but
yeah.
Compared to Friday nights and the other games I've had to watch for this week, this one was a real enjoy.
We needed one. We needed one that was good to watch. And I'm pretty sure I saw towards the end Finn Smith taking the mick out of Faye Boso for the step, and they had a good old laugh about it because surely no one was expecting that. I know Finn Smith isn't. Well, he's not a slouch, but he's not the quickest to fly halves. He left Faye Boso in his dust. I thought it was brilliant, and what a lovely try to finish off the game. And obviously, as a Saints fan, to come away with 5 points at Sandy Park in this stage of the season.
Huge result.
Absolutely huge. And kind of, I think we're one win away from securing the playoffs and probably only 2 or 3 wins away from securing top 2. So,
yes.
It's all looking
big game
good.
this weekend, though. We'll probably do predictions later on. But, there are no easy run-ins. But your next 3 games are
tricky.
Pretty punchy.
Yeah. I think that makes or breaks where we land.
Yeah, Bath Tigers, then Bristol. You get a nice soft landing with Gloss and Quins, but
we come back to earth with a nice comfortable run in towards the playoffs.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, this was a massive result, and it's probably when you look at how well Chiefs have gone this season. It's only the 4th game they've lost all season. I think it might be the only one they've lost at home. You can, given you drew against them as well at the start of the season, it's a real marker of Saints to have won this one, and probably bouncing back from European disappointment as well.
Well, Andrew rotated the squad and carrying quite a lot of injuries. I'm it's up there with the away win against Bath for me. Kind of unexpected, but really, just full credit to kind of the Saints squad, which last season was one of the biggest weaknesses, was just not having the depth. I think we're seeing this season that the depth is more there than it ever has been. And our squad players, like the calibre of performance they're able to put out there. So the likes of your Ed Prowse and your Tom Lockett's and Tom Litchfield, who's kind of the stand and centre, put in such huge performances when they're called upon, and they're becoming so reliable. It's really good to see, and it was a great game of rugby to watch. So I'm glad we had that to talk about. We do have 3 other games to talk about. Obviously, there's talking points about. We need to discuss all 3 of them, but probably not going to dig too deep into the nuances of the next 3 games because not a huge amount. We could talk Quins Bath a bit, but the Leicester Newcastle game, which was the 3 p.m. kickoff, for example.
Just a bit of, to be honest, just quite an embarrassing blowout, really, for Newcastle. I think the only talking points around this one. I mean, the Leatherbarrow red card, some fully deserved. Really, really nasty bit of work from a player that we really like and has been one of the big shining lights for this team this season. But that was a nasty hit there on Hamish Watson. Gabriel Hamer-Webb, well done to anyone who picked him in their fantasy team, getting 5 tries this week. Hell of a return. Of the 2 wingers there, Hamer-Webb and Radwan, 7 tries between them, but you wouldn't have guessed that Hamer-Webb would get 5 of those. But he's been
not a bad return, eh? And what a story!
For a player that's bounced around quite a bit and never quite looked like they were going to fulfil their promise, he's starting to look like a proper player, and obviously now an international.
He was at Saints at pre-season on a temporary contract at the start of this season.
Yeah,
starting to look like maybe one that we maybe should have persevered with.
Yeah, and you never know. You never quite know what the story is behind some of these players that don't seem like they're settling. Maybe you just needs the right coach who finds the right messaging for them. Maybe it's these things are never players are human, so they're fallible. Yeah. There's always more to it than maybe you'd think, but he has not really looked back since being at Tigers. Rocketing up the try scoring charts, obviously, after this weekend, but he'd already bagged a few. And given he was probably brought in as sort of emergency cover, starting to look more and more like someone who's going to be challenging for starting berths, even at full strength. Adam Radwan bagging a brace in the last 10 minutes as well.
Good to see him back. Good to see him back.
Yeah, Jamie Blamire getting 2 against his old club as well. And George Martin getting back out on the pitch after 14 months off. So that's really good to see. Hopefully he can stay fit and get a run of fitness between now and the end of the season, put himself back in England contention. To be honest, even if we were to go into the tries aren't that much to talk about. It's good finishing from home and Webb, but it's by and large it was simple finishing, really. Blamire scored 2 good tries, but I think both off line-out mauls, actually off the top of my head. Parise gets an intercept and a run in.
It was just a tale as old of time of men versus boys, almost like Newcastle were just not in the races.
Just not even slightly at the races. They didn't look like. Well, you mentioned obviously there's probably a few boys who've missed out on contract extensions. Obviously, feel for them. That's not easy. You're a pro player. You're now faced with the prospect of being unemployed, and that is a tough position to be in. And it's there's more to it than letting down fans or whatever else. That I completely sympathise with lads there. What I suppose on the other side of that though, you have to be brutally honest and say it's results like this that are why players don't get contract extensions. That's the brutal nature of the cutthroat nature of pro sports. There's no room for sentimentality. Yeah. And on performances like that,
you can't blame coaches for not wanting them to stick around if that's what they're getting paid to deliver.
Exactly. But probably not one to dwell on for us or for Newcastle. No. Obviously, a nice run out for Tigers. Nice for them to beef up their points difference. Their good form continues. They're looking good shouts to really challenge for the title this year. I would say really the top 5 teams in the league could all conceivably
beat each other on the day.
There's no obvious winner out of those top 5. Obviously, Saints and Bath are the top 2 teams, and ostensibly out on their own results-wise, quality-wise. But you'd never write off Tigers, particularly against Bath and Saints, with it being such a historic rivalry. I think Chiefs are good enough to give anyone a game, and we know Bristol, if they put it together on the day, home or away, they are a fucking handful. So
to put it lightly.
Yeah. So that race for the title, we're obviously getting right into the business end of the season, and it's a shame there have been some poor results this week, but the actual race for the title itself looks extremely exciting.
And I completely agree. I think any of the 5 teams have the ability to win it on their day, which does make it exciting, because I think in the past it's always been a bit of a 1 or 2 horse race. Like, you kind of know who's going to win it, really. This year it's really hard to call. Because we've seen this year Saints and Leicester have beaten Bath have beaten Northampton. Like, everyone's beating everyone. Bristol are an eternal banana skin for Saints and numerous other teams. It's really interesting, and we look forward to that. Moving on from the Leicester Newcastle game, next game it's a little bit more to talk around. It is the Bath Harlequins game, so there is still a little bit of a shellacking here, but I think you're right to say there is a bit more nuance to it.
So the final score is Bath 48, Quins 15, and it's not a good final score for Quins. It wouldn't be a good final score for anyone. I actually thought Quins were pretty good in this game, and they've got real mitigating circumstances. Look, every team has had to deal with a big injury list at the moment. I think they said Quins are currently missing 29 players.
It's insane. Did you see that they did like an injury update list? And it's just like reading a book.
It took a long time to do. Marcus Smith having to start full back. in the front row. Is it Joe Jones, the tight head?
Yeah, brought it on loan. Yeah,
brought it on loan. It's only his second game for Quins. Hobson at loose head. Not a player that at the start of the season you would have thought would have got much game time for Quins. The Clark, I think, was possibly on debut. The sub loose head.
Yeah. I would challenge you to say his first name, but I know you don't know it, so I'm not gonna.
I don't know it.
No.
Owen Clark. Yeah. Musk. I assume not Elon. Substitute
Jack
hooker was on debut. He was a youngster. Ollie Streeter, we know from the under-20s.
Yeah.
Young lad, lots of bags of potential, but, very young lad. Cunningham South filling in at second row. Elliot Williams, 18-year-old on the bench for them there. Guido Petty starting on blindside, missing the likes of Launchbury. Still, who's announced his retirement. We should acknowledge that. Joe Launchbury, one of England's greats.
Yeah.
Superb player. One of the best second rows.
To Launchbury.
Absolutely. And then in this game, it's just so unfortunate. They lose Nick David after 20 minutes on 1 week. They go with a 6-2 bench, which is a risk in itself, but you can see why they did it, because who else were they going to bring in? They lose Nick David after 20 minutes. After 23 minutes, they lose Caden Murley.
Yeah.
So they've already got...
They've unloaded their backs already.
They've already unloaded their backs. They've got Lucas Friday on one wing. Is it Cam Anderson on the other wing?
Yeah.
And then before the hour mark, Jared Evans goes off.
Yeah, bring on Zach Carr, wasn't it?
Let's bring on Zach Carr and put Alex Donbrandt into the centres.
Yeah.
It just when it rains, it pours. Gloucester have been there this season. Bristol have been there this season. Saints have been there. It's sometimes you just can't help but look at it and go, "Are we fucking cursed?" But. It really, really unfortunate for Quins, but I actually thought for large parts of this game they were really, really good. They competed well.
Yeah.
Some of their attack was really good.
I loved the Treadwell try.
The Treadwell try was excellent. With Petty's little left-handed offload out the back to him, and then Treadwell flattening Thocken Singer, Ewan Richards, and Charlie Yules, I think, on his way to the line. Just excellent bit of finishing from and he scored a couple of nice tries this season. Let's not forget. A good player, Treadwell, actually. I thought Donbrandt was superb in this game. I think he's probably a player who's copped his more than his fair share of flack, maybe even from us at times. But he was brilliant in this game. Really, really combative. Proper bit of leadership, really led from the front in this one. Marcus Smith, I thought when he had the opportunity to move the ball and to go himself, looked really dangerous. But at some point, compare the two squads and the in-game injuries for Quins, and physics doesn't lie. They just didn't have a chance. Santi Carrera scores after 3 minutes, and Quins actually started really well. And they were on course for a really good attack, but it's a poor pass, a flat pass across the face by Jared Evans that Santi reads, runs it in from 60. And I think probably the writing was somewhat on the wall from there. Quins do hit back, and Bradley scores a nice try in the corner, really nice finish from him. Then Carl Smith scored not too long after that. And Carreras got another nice finish, another jinking finish from Carreras. But, 21-8 at half-time, it looked really like it was only going one way, but Quins was still in it. And actually, when Treadwell scored his try, it goes to 21-15. And you sort of think...
Did you see that Treadwell try? It came from that world-famous unstoppable double pump from Finn Russell that no other fly-half can do. They got intercepted by Guido Petty. Little throwback to last week.
Just an excellent.
So glad. So glad they pay. I'm so glad that happened after last week's podcast. If you haven't listened, go back and listen to it. I had a good old rant about Finn Russell being quite boring this year, and Rory said, "What other fly half can do a double pump and put players through like that?" Well,
I don't think that's quite true.
He did it for Guido Petty. He did it for Guido Petty.
This is quite a childish line from you, David. But okay, I'll cop that. I would argue that other than that, Russell had a pretty good game, and Bath played some quite nice rugby in this game. So
look at the stats of their backs. They did nothing. Nothing happened for them other than Santi Carreras. None of them did anything.
I think Lawrence and Jomo were both pretty good.
They were solid, but they didn't do anything magnificent. Didn't have to against Harlequins. Let's face it. Look at the opposition.
I mean, you've taken a real bitter turn in the last 2 weeks. I know you've had to go back to work this week and you're all grumpy about it, but after your 12 weeks...
It's just my eyes have been opened to the fact of how boring Bath are. And it's just, the more I look into it, he did nothing.
Was anonymous in this game. No, I didn't hear his name said.
Thockham the Singer was fantastic in defence, did nothing in attack.
But he was fantastic in defence.
Yeah. But they're all fantastic in defence. I'm not going to take that away from them. They're all really good in defence. But my point is, you don't sign Finn Russell for them to be fantastic in defence. No,
okay. Well, they still did win by over 30 points, David.
Because their pack is incredible, and I've never denied that. And
it was again. And their bench, Ewan Richards, a player that we're a big fan of, scoring a nice try. Josh Bayliss with an excellent finish.
Yeah,
all these forwards. Tell me that was a bad try.
Yeah, it's because it's their forwards. Their forwards are fantastic. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that for one bit.
I mean, this attitude, David, you're going to force me to end up rooting for Bath against Saints in the final at some point.
Well, let's face it, you already will.
I can't support Bath. I'm genetically predisposed to dislike Bath, but this attitude's it's a bad colour on you.
I think I'm onto something. And just, it's an unpopular opinion, Rory. And I just have to bear it. I just have to ride that one and wear it.
I'm not denying that Bath are a conservative team. I've been there with you the whole season on this, but this is bordering on bitterness.
I've been digging into the stats, and it's just it screams out. It's so there and obvious to see that how they are not utilised as well as they could do. But we won't go down that rabbit hole again, Rory. There's other rabbit holes to get stuck in this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's avoid this one. But yeah, look, Bath by and large were just outclassed. And in the second half when the Bath bombs came on, you did feel for the young lads of Quinn's front row.
Yeah, Ollie Streets has forced on, and Thomas de Toy, Francois van Veek.
Yeah. You do have to sort of just some empathy with the lads there, but
it was credit to them. They didn't get binned.
Sorry,
it's a credit to them. They didn't get binned for too many scrum infringements. I thought they did their best to not concede too many scrum penalties.
They did, and they stayed on the pitch. That's as much as you can hope for sometimes.
Yeah.
And look, I'm going to say Quinn's in really, really difficult circumstances against a rampant Bath pack. I think they acquitted themselves commendably in this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately it all came down to Finn Russell's stardust, and that's why Eddie Hearn signed him up.
That's why they hooked Finn Russell off after 50 minutes.
Yeah, just to save him for the big occasion. Yeah. Look, let's be honest, David. You're being very bitter about this now. You might be speaking from the other side of your face after this weekend.
I have so what's the game after next week's game between Bath and Northampton? It's their trip to Bordeaux. I have a sneaking suspicion they might rest a few players for the game against Saints, and
I don't know.
They might. They've got a big enough squad to kind of ride it, so they probably won't. But there is a chance.
Well, they rotated a little bit in this one. Let's be fair.
Well, yeah, they rotate week in, week out because they got a big enough squad. But
yeah, and we both have our suspicions about it. But let's be frank. Who's doing better on the injury front of anyone other than Bath?
Well, both Lawrence and Ajomo picked up injuries at the very end of this game. Van Graan,
which is really unfortunate. But
so Van Graan said that there is concern over both of them. So if that happened, if that's genuine and that's a long-term thing, that could change Bath's season entirely.
Yeah, so what they'll do, leaving with Cam Redpath and
Will Butt.
See.
Both all good options if Finn Russell gives them the ball. But
maybe they'll have to just finally rely on that fantastic pack to win them games.
And this is part of the problem, Rory. They haven't had to test it. They haven't had to test it because they just rely on that fantastic pack so much. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's another solid, strong victory for Bath. Right on the coattails of the Northampton Saints. 1 point in it, still at the top of the table. As you say, this weekend, well, I think that makes or breaks which teams kind of guaranteed a home semi versus perhaps just settling for third or fourth. I don't know. We shall see. And, the last game of the weekend, I think the incredibly loyal people of Greater Manchester probably don't want us to dwell too much on this game. But...
No.
85.
Sale 19, Saracens 85.
Man, that's bad.
Even as shellackings go, that's poor.
No offence, Scotland women.
Yes, with our condolences to the Scottish women. And look, shellackings don't happen like this unless you are soft in defence and uncommitted. But even by shellacking standards, Sale were
So bad.
well. Let's be frank, they weren't there.
No, they really weren't.
And you know, I think almost every Saracens try came off poor tackling. Which, how often would you say that about a Sale side in the last few years?
I'm going to stick by my theory that they've done so much tackling this season that I think their bodies just can't handle anymore, because they are top of every tackle chart in every competition they take part in. I just think they're broken. Like, you can only do so much before your body starts saying no. That's the only explanation I've got, because up until now they've been such dependable and robust defensive side. It's just completely gone out the window.
Maybe mentally broken. Maybe after so many weeks of just backs to the wall, physical, grind it out, maybe it's just no longer possible for Alex Sanderson to keep putting them in that space week in, week out. You know, at some point that message has got to tire, isn't it?
Yeah. That's another question I've seen bandied around a bit. Like, is there any other professional sport where a coach would remain in their role after a series of performances that Sale have had recently? Well, I'm not calling for Sanderson's head at all, because I know he's a very good coach. But is there any other sport where like that would happen, and like a coach is kind of kept on despite such appalling run of form that we're seeing with Sale at the moment?
Well, I think questions are being asked. I mean, obviously, for whatever reason, Quins are sticking with Jason Gilmore after this season. I think Gloucester are absolutely considering the position of their coaches. We know Newcastle have changed quite a few coaches. I think they've probably now settled on next year's with Stephen Jones in charge. But I would be surprised if some conversations weren't happening in the corridors of Sale Sharks, because I really like Alex Sanderson. I think he's got the mentality that makes me think he could potentially make a very good international coach.
But it's just not right at the moment.
Sale at the moment. I mean, only 3 wins this season.
Poor.
Really, really poor. They've conceded
10 tries to Kalori alone.
Well, 10 tries to Kalori alone. Yeah, I mean, they've actually scored a good number of points. You know, if you look at their points difference compared to the other teams down that end of the table, but they've conceded basically the same number of points as Gloucester and Quins have. It's a poor stat given, you know, what a defensive outfit they normally are.
The Northern Force, as they're now trying to brand themselves as well.
Well, yeah, I don't know what they were forcing through this weekend, but it was
not a lot. It wasn't forcing much through, that's for sure.
It wasn't of much substance, put it that way, when it came out.
What a lovely image for the listener there. Do we dwell much on Saracens' 5 tries again for Kalori? I suppose a little hat tip to the fact that he's done that twice in one season.
Yeah, look, it's great. I think what you could see in this game was some of the other elements to what he's developing. Some really good work off his wing to finish at least one of the tries, but also, you know, taking some all offset piece and getting some go forward. You can see, you know, I think he's developing his game beyond where he was at the start of the season.
And he's got his hands on the ball a lot in this game, which in some of the previous games they just weren't getting the ball to him at all.
That's it. I think, you know, if he can develop his point where he has more involvements, you know, looking at the likes of what Gabe Batoy and Calaveti Ravuvu do at Bristol, you know, if you want to be one of the best wingers in the world, you have to have your hands on the ball, because you're the type of player that people want to watch. You're the type of player who scores tries. You know, that is just you working off the ball and getting your hands on it. So, but you know, his development trajectory is still going absolutely in the right direction.
The bloke's still 19.
He's still 19. You know,
and he scored 17 tries this season.
At 19, David, we were rampaging around Wivenhoe Fields, but we weren't scoring 19 tries, and we didn't look as good as he does.
No, not at all. So it's funny how things go for different people. You know, if you've got talent and ability versus
I think that is the real difference between if you look at us compared to Noah and Kaluri, the main difference is talent and ability.
Oh yeah.
Not lifestyle choices.
It's not lifestyle choices, no, not at all. Yeah, just look at us.
Yeah, we're just that natural talent.
Hey, this is why rugby's beautiful. It's a sport for all shapes and sizes.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, where for Kalori and us, we are like chalk and cheese, and you know, thankfully there's room for us all.
Chalky.
But no, it was really good to see, and like as he is one of the R-Mob 20 under 20 to watch, I'm glad we're watching him because I'm sure Chris Ashton's try-scoring record's going to be under threat quite soon if he's going to
If anyone's going to break it, Noah Kalouri, I reckon, is going to be one to do it.
Yeah, 17 tries in one season before you even turn 20s. Pretty insane, albeit 10 of them were against Sale. And I get on a similar note to I gave with Gloucester, at least if you look at Sale's recruitment for next season, I'll be very surprised if they're as passive that next season. Well, just with Courtney Laws alone, he would not tolerate such poor mindset that was on display this week.
And to be honest, I think that extra leadership voice on the pitch is maybe what they were lacking in this game, because it can't just be Van Rijn all the time. He's a grafter, Van Rijn, but George Ford's obviously a leader on the pitch, but defensively probably not so much. And if you look around the rest of the team, where's the defensive leader? Vermeulen, maybe. I mean, Dugdale's a good defender, but they need that. That's a team that after this weekend is crying out for Courtney Laws. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the less said about that game, the better, because as we've said before and said it again, it was a shellacking. Before we get into a special edition of What a Ranker, predictions for next week, Rory?
Well, let's have a look what we got on Friday. Newcastle Red Bulls at home against Bristol. Red Bulls are stronger at home. I think they'll make an occasion of it. But Bristol, I think, will probably come out fairly comfortable winners here. I'm going to guess 45-22. I think it'll be an entertaining game, bit up and end to end, but Bristol, I think, are going to come away convincing winners.
Can't see beyond Bristol at all in this one. It would be a comfortable 5-point win for them. 20 points plus, for sure, difference. I can't see beyond that.
Quins against Dale at 3:00.
Oh, there's what I'm not tuning into.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, if Quins had more players available, I'd back them.
I think I think if you were to base it off of this weekend's performances, Quins at least looked like they were playing for something.
Yeah, but Quins have got a bad record this season of backing up positive performances.
True, it is usually one and done, isn't it?
Yeah, they're also down even more players. Sale will have an absolute rocket put up them, and I think they will have to respond after that performance. They can't not respond. I'm actually going to back Sale, I think, to edge this one, but I think it'll be something like 17-15.
So in my head, I was thinking it was going to be 17-13. I was going to give it to Harlequins just because I wanted to reward their enforced policy on playing a lot of their young players, mainly because they have no other players. But you're probably right. It probably will be Sale, but I'd like to envisage a win for Harlequins and for their youngsters.
Why not? Look, it doesn't mean
anything. It's fine. Next game, I believe, is that Saints Bath. I haven't got the fixtures up in front of me, Rory. So
it's Saracens Tigers at 3:05. Saracens.
That's a good game.
This is a good game because Saracens have been really up and down this season, but they'll obviously be bouncing off after this weekend. Tigers just generally been going really well. They just rumble on. But Saracens have got a lot of players back. They look strong. And I think they will be determined to give Mark McCall an opportunity to have another crack at the playoffs before the end of the season.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to back Saracens to sneak this one.
I think Saracens need to win it if they genuinely do want to have a shot at the playoffs. They need
to win it if they're going to. So I'm going to back them to win this one on the back of them just being more desperate to win it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 24-18 Saracens.
Yeah, I'm backing that. I think Saracens sneak it as well, some way. I think it'll be a great game. I think it'll be close, but I think Saracens sneak it. Maybe 27-24 or something like that. I think it'll be a bit closer than what you suggested, but I think it'll be a great game. And then the next game.
There we go. It's Northampton Saints against Bath, 5:30 on Saturday at Franklin's Gardens. Are you going to this one, David?
Undecided at this stage. I do have the option to go. I just haven't decided whether I will take up that option yet or not.
Well, I think this is one to make yourself available for because I'm expecting a humdinger here. Saints, I think, will push Bath to the absolute edges of what they're capable of in this one. They're obviously going to need they're going to be motivated to get some revenge after the European exit.
Yep.
Bath potentially down a couple in the centres, which will play into Saints' hands. But that Bath pack is just being marshalled by Finn Russell so well at the moment. I think this one will come down to as it so often does. It come down to a battle of the forwards, probably a battle of the breakdown. And I think just on this occasion, that does play in Bath's hands.
Bath do not have a good record at Franklin's Gardens.
Bath don't have a good record at Franklin's Gardens. Ooh, which way am I leaning on this one, David?
I know where you're leaning. You're leaning towards Bath.
No, do you know what? I've my logic's talked me round. I think if Saints can secure their line out and their scrum, if they can secure their set piece, which is not a given, but Bath don't necessarily have the best line out, I'm going to just give it to Saints to edge it.
There's a reason Saints have rested a lot of players. Like, if we didn't touch on the game, Saints rested a lot of players this week as well. We're gunning for this game.
Yeah.
Because it's all we have to play for. Bath have Europe to think about.
I'm going to give it Saints 31-27.
I'm going to say it's going to be 44-41, but this time in Saints' direction.
Oh, poetic justice.
Poetic justice. And the referee's going to make lots of decisions in favour of Saints this time. And that's what's going to happen. And I can't wait to talk about the podcast and say how great the referee was. And how boring Bath have been because all their tries came from line-out mauls. That's my prediction.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to this one.
And then final fixture.
And then on Sunday, Gloucester at home against Exeter.
Looking forward to that one, Rory?
I'd love to find you any kind of logic whereby I can back Gloucester to win it, and I just can't at the moment. I can't think of any reason why Gloucester would win this one. And on that basis, I'm going to have to give it to Chiefs. I'm going to say it's going to be 28-12 to Chiefs.
Yeah, I can't see it beyond the comfortable win for Chiefs. They've got something to play for. Gloucester don't. Exeter play with a bit between their teeth at the moment. Their defence is remarkable, and their attack... Gloucester's isn't. Yeah, I can see this one being Exeter 30-ish, Gloucester 12 or something like that. Yeah. As I empathise you and your Gloucester fandom. Checking at the time, Rory, I think we might need to put a holding pattern on Wataranka this week, because we've done a lot of deliberating, and I know the fans are crying for more Wataranka, but it's probably worth us just giving a little nod to the Red Roses before we bring the podcast to a close.
Yeah, talking of shellackins. Yeah. So Scotland 7, England 84. Scotland just utterly outclassed by an England side that are looking like they're clicking in attack in a way we haven't necessarily seen. The Meg Jones try was really indicative of it, where
summed up well.
I think it is. I'm not sure. I can't remember if it was Cabella or Feanati who makes the initial bust. But it's the tracking run that made Jones make, and just I anticipate either having to hit the rug, or she was really tracking for was the offload, which she gets and finishes really well. She just looked like, the whole team I think looked like a team that had really worked hard on an attacking pattern that works. Emma Singh's try was a really good example of that as well. And actually they mixed it up well. They scored the sort of tries you expect from England. Sarah Byrne and Amy Cockayne both scored some good old fashioned Red Roses tries. Yeah, but actually a lot of it came from really good.
The backs were let loose.
Really good attacking play. I think they're getting into some frightening form. For Scotland, it's a weekend to forget. Just dust yourself off and go again. Ultimately, summarily dispatched by the Red Roses here. But if you look at that England side, you look at the players who aren't in there.
Yeah, scary.
It is really scary. You have Mia Venner starting on the bench, young winger from Gloucester Hartbury, who's been scoring tries for 5 scores in this one. but they had Holly Aitchison on the started on the bench. They started with Zoe Harrison at 10.
Yep.
Ellie Kildunn moved to the wing to accommodate Emma Singh. Jess Breach on the other wing. You're missing a lot of big players for England in that starting lineup. Obviously very short in the lock department, but Burton and Campion giving a good account of themselves. Latui as well, scoring a try late on. Alex Matthews missing. Fayanati stepping up really well.
It's ominous, isn't it?
I think it's looking like the Red Roses form isn't going to falter anytime soon.
No. Is there a risk, and this is kind of devil's advocate kind of stance that I'm just posing, it's not necessarily what I think is going to happen, but is there a risk that with how dominant the Red Roses are, that lack of competitiveness and lack of kind of competition from any other opponent in like kind of these competitions, that it could theoretically put some neutral fans or people just trying to discover women's rugby off? Because part of the allure of sport is that competition. If the Red Roses are just beating their closest rivals by 80 points to 7 week in, week out, is there a risk that they could be victims of their own success in that degree, in that regard?
Yes, but that's on everyone else to up their game.
Red
Roses can't deliberately be worse just to make
no.
And the fact that, for all the RFU's faults, the fact that they have invested in women's rugby and create a situation where Red Roses team is so good, even compared to anyone else, around the world, that's to be applauded. And
for sure. I agree, but that's why it's devil's advocate approach.
I totally get the question. It's a question you hear sometimes. I think you often hear variations of that questions from those who would like to detract from women's sport in general. Women's team sport, where there are a lot of instances across women's team sport where it is asymmetric. Well, that's because we've not been good enough in society to champion women's team sport for a long time, and it's now uneven. It is asymmetric across the board, but it will only get better if people just keep playing it. And who's to say the Red Roses can't inspire some Scottish women to go out and become the next best players? It's they can only keep doing what they're doing. And we've seen that there are some results in the youth that shows.
Oh, absolutely,
that
it's not going to last forever.
It's not going to last forever. So look, I understand the question, and I think it's one that needs to be asked. But the answer lies in other teams improving, and not on the Red Roses.
Yeah, and I put a lot of hope on the PWR that attracts the best talent from around the world. And I think the fact that the Red Roses are playing with these women from all across the world, I think hopefully that skill is then shared and then that spreads, and then that's how the levels improve. I think the PWR could be a source of nations across.
Yeah. You've got the Women's Pacific 4 series going on at the moment as well. Don't forget, you've got Canada, US, Australia, and then New Zealand playing. Some tight games in that one. Canada 14, New Zealand 36, US 33, Australia 12. These aren't blowouts.
No, these are much closer competitions. And I think that those 4 teams are quite evenly matched as well. So it does exist. I think it was an antagonistic question, but I think it's just I just don't want to see progress that's being made in the women's area be undermined by the fact that they are just so good. And
and it won't be if every other nation pulls their finger out and actually gets behind it. Because look at the kind of crowd that England got for the opening game this year. It's not just now a novelty. The Red Roses are now a team that pull crowds. Yeah. And actually, the other nations need to do better to pull those crowds, because that's how this becomes profitable, and this is how it becomes a sustainable sport.
Yeah, and there's a relatively fair argument to be made that the women's version of the game is a much more attractive version of the game to watch compared to the men's internationals side. Like it's certainly much more exciting to watch at times. So it's an interesting one. Roy, we have blabbed on this week, and
we have, haven't we?
We've covered a lot of ground, and it's on that note we will have to bring the podcast to a close, but we can't do that without Rory's final thought. So what is Rory's final thought?
Get yourselves down to Barking RFC this Saturday to watch the mighty Lions win the league. Lions, Lions, Lions.
And on that note, we've been Rucks, Mauls and Oval Balls. Rory's catching his breath. And we'll be back again next week with some more rugby podcast content for you all. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe and all those fun things. And we'll be back again to talk to you very, very soon. Ta-ra!
Ta-da!